Hey guys, welcome back. BDC Care here, and we're back with another Survivor Last Laugh Tickets video. Today we'll be checking out what the drop rate is for the Fourth World gear set. We've had a lot of complaints that it is very difficult to get, especially the Mace, and so we figured we'd open up enough tickets that we'd start to get a pretty good idea of what the distribution
So you can see there that was 1,000. And part of showing you Nightwing was to show that there's no gears. It's a clean account so that it'll be easier to demonstrate the distribution without actually having to pay attention during the whole, 1,000 tickets is a lot and boring. Clean collection, whatever gears will be from the Survivor run. And the second part is actually doing it starting from after finishing the 9th fight so that it's not affected by cashing them out really too early. And I think the 9th fight is a pretty realistic level for most people to be able to get.
Yeah.
So I guess a couple things. One is we're going to speed this up in a little bit because the actual cashing out 1,000 tickets last time took an hour.
Yeah, and that was a real long video. And I guess the second thing is you guys might be able to tell I am a little bit sick, so if there's a little bit of coughing or whatever, we'll try our best to edit it out, but this is a 22-minute video, so that might not be viable.
All right. So I guess just a little bit of history, too, about the Survivor gear set. Maybe we should talk about it since we've got a bit of time, even though we're going to speed it up. The first of the Survivor gear sets, I believe, was the Fourth World gear set before we knew there was going to be a bunch.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because they're really sort of defensively minded, except for maybe the Mace. So, all right, so let's take a look at it. The chest plate, so it's a health boost, chance to reflect specials, and chance to not take damage. Totally defensive gear. And, well, we can get a little bit into that. Let me just go over some of the stuff. And if you've got the helmet, you got power gen, blocking stops more damage, a stun chance on tag in. So it's sort of a mix. The power gen increase lets you do specials. Stun chance on tag in gives you some unblocked hits. But the blocking definitely defensive. But the real standout to me as an offensive gear is the Mace. Yeah. So the splash damage when you do special 2 of 15% is not bad, since there's not a lot of gears that do splash damage on special 2, and I don't think there are any other ones that are not character specific.
Yeah, so that's always useful.
Damage to special 2. And a power drain chance on special 2. And when it first came out, I thought the Mace, when I'd heard about it, I thought the Mace was perfect for Ares because of the way we played him. Right?
Yeah, with Godsmack.
Right, and so you drop him, you get 1 bar from Razagul's Scimitar, you get 1 bar from Batgirl, you do an unblocked Godsmack right away, so you basically reduce the fight to 3 versus 2.
Yeah, 3 versus a damaged 2.
Right. And because his Blade of the War God also gives you splash damage more. Oh, here's the other thing too. The splash damage on the Mace stacks. Just remember that, because if you have the damage text enabled, it'll only show one of them. It'll only show the Mace splash damage, or to show you the Bloody Sword splash damage. It won't show you both, but it's actually happening. You can tell by the bar of health that's getting dropped, and you can see on the numbers at the end. So what I've sort of avoided going to until now was what really makes the Fourth World set so useful and so annoying when you're fighting against them in multiplayer
is the gear set properties.
Right. So one is reviving, and you only need 2 pieces, and that's the other thing too. When they first came out, you used to revive after
3 pieces. Yeah, they swapped the abilities around.
Right. When they realized that the healing was actually way more powerful. So the healing, it says 6% chance of regen from your special 1, but it's not 6% total. It's actually 6% per second. I can't remember how many seconds, maybe 5.
Yeah.
And one thing you might notice is if your special 2 takes a long time to animate, then the amount of regen tends to be a little bit less. And I think part of it is that it comes with the. This is funny. He's like a little chipmunk. He's not so annoying. Like when you get the ha ha ha, it's not nearly as bad when it goes through this fast. So he. What was I talking about? Oh, the regen. Yeah. So if you've got somebody with a really long animation, then you might not get as much benefit from the special 1. But it always seems like the AI, when you're playing against them, gets all of it.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Frustrating.
Absolutely. So, what's in sort of the meta now of how you've got so many special evaders, like that dodge them by inherently or by their gear. What it really favors is having at least one person with high damage. So Fourth World gear set may not be nearly as good. You can have one guy, you can still have a tank, and now that the League of Assassins gear is fixed, then it's not that bad a strategy to have a tank to come in and take the damage. I'm actually liking it again because there isn't the same kind of punishment for tagging in and out.
It's true, yeah. It just allows you to play a lot more strategies viably. It allows for a lot more kind of thoughtful decision making, right?
Well, if only we could cash out last laugh tickets this fast in real life.
Oh man, yeah. I would love just a mass cash out. I know it'd be hard to display everything to you, but they could do it the way that they display season rewards for WWE Immortals, right? Where it's all in kind of one bar.
Yeah, that's true.
For all the gear, I'd be totally okay with that. If you just got to scroll through and look at it. And I guess that's only for people who bank, because otherwise there's not enough that it makes a difference. But I still think it would be kind of useful.
Yeah, when you see 1,000 tickets cashed out like this, it really gives you a sense of how much of a time commitment it takes when you're farming Survivor for gears or for augmentations, because the steps it takes to cash them out. Because augmentations are like that too, right? You can't just grab a whole bunch at once. You have to put one at a time. And then when you actually use the cards, you have to wait for a huge animation where your device is kind of locked, where it just flicks the cards over.
And then you have to manually slide them in one by one too. I think it's just interesting to see it like this because usually what this is a small bit over time. But you look at the actual amount of time that it takes just to do one element of actually maxing it out, right? And when it's not kind of a little bit here and there, like even just max augmenting one character stat all at once actually takes a while.
Right. Oh, and I guess it goes without saying too, this account, thanks to our friend who shall remain nameless, who set us up with this account to be clean like this, to have the opportunity to do 1,000 tickets, because it'd be painful to set this up. Yeah. And it'd be a bit of a mess, because then you'd have a lot of other gears and we'd have to pay attention to it as we were cashing everything out.
Just not worth the effort.
Yeah, but it is interesting, right? You can see, I mean, if you're paying attention even a little bit, it's going fast, but not too fast that you can't see everything. There's a lot of the chest plate and very few of the mace. I mean, that's been our experience, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Chest plate's the most common.
I'm almost like 100%, as close to 100%, I think, convinced that there isn't an equal distribution. I think we've seen enough people all complain about having issues with getting the same piece, and we've seen enough, even just in this video almost already, to tell that there's definitely a non-equal distribution.
Well, and for the three, alright, so Fourth World gear set, the League of Assassins, and the LexCorp, I think it's pretty obvious to me that there's one that's really common.
Yeah.
And there's some arguments about which one is the least common. And some people say that, they have no trouble getting the mace and they have to wait on the helmet. That hasn't been my experience at all. I think this is bearing it out a little bit.
Yeah, because I think the issue is for any one given person, you only need to be lucky once. Right? To get something. Like, you can get the mace on your first last laugh ticket. But that doesn't necessarily have any bearing on the actual odds of getting it as your first last laugh ticket.
Yep.
So I think people's individual experiences, they might have even gotten like 5 maces before they got one of anything else, but that doesn't actually really reflect one way or the other
sample
specifically.
Size.
Yeah.
Right. This is what makes it hard too. If you're looking at sample size, I mean, we've done like 100 pack openings, and when you've got stuff coming more often, that's not a bad sample size. But if you want to really look at something that's rare, like there's the mace. If you want to look at something like that's rare like the mace, then you really do have to look at a few, because I think if we're gonna be looking at numbers, it's gonna be less than 1%.
Yeah.
Right?
And for something that's like a 1% chance of happening, if you do a trial 100 times, I think that means that there's like a 50-something% chance that it'll actually turn out a specific way. Something along those numbers. So a 1% chance thing, and then doing a trial 100 times doesn't actually guarantee that you'll get one. In fact, it's actually only slightly over like a 50% chance that it'll turn out that way.
All right, four times speed is even better.
Yeah.
It's actually one thing I noticed too. It actually takes longer to cash out a ticket if you needed another reason to hate landing on the ha ha ha.
It takes more
longer.
Time,
yeah, because you have to wait for him to finish laughing instead of seeing your item and then clicking OK. It's there's another.
Or at least it can take longer. It depends on how long you sit on actually the item. But if you're opening a bunch, then chances are you're efficient.
Oh, for another note, actually, for people who've been banking the tickets, just in case you didn't realize, the numbers can't show more than 100. Doesn't mean you don't have the tickets. The tickets are still there, but the countdown goes from 99 down to 90 and then back up to 99 as you cash them out. So they're there. Your game still keeps track of it. You just can't see it. So that makes it hard to know how far along we are in the 1,000.
That's true. But it makes sense, right? Because banking isn't like a real kind of feature. It's more of like a just.
Well, it's. I think they made it so that you don't lose it if your device crashes.
Yeah, which would be awful.
Which sort of is a feature, but we're exploiting it a little bit.
So it's like an emergent property that comes from the ability to close your app anytime and the ability to not lose tickets when you close your app.
I wouldn't call it so much a glitch just because it's so much more obvious than some of the other glitches that we're talking about. It doesn't offer much of an advantage except maybe a psychological one.
Yeah, but it makes sense not going over 99 because it is 16 fights. Mm-hmm. And even if you get a last laugh ticket every single time you can, that's nowhere near 100 tickets.
I should point out, too, here's a tip for people who are cashing out if they want to avoid the ha-ha-ha, which is something that we did not do because we were in such a rush to try to get through 1,000 tickets. The light stops when you let go. Not when you touch, but when you let go. So if you really want to increase your chance of getting something good instead of a ha-ha-ha, put your finger down and leave it there. And don't let go until you see the light. As soon as it touches the ha-ha, let go.
Yeah, because it'll usually go to the next thing, and that's very rarely going back to the ha-ha-ha.
Yeah, and no guarantees. Sometimes it does go that fast. I wish... I mean, it's not... It's sort of a mini-game within a mini-game, right? So in Injustice, in Survivor mode, there's this last laugh thing. And I think it would be so much better if they made it easier just to cash out. I think I like your idea of having it all at once.
Yeah.
Instead of having to wait through this, because it just draws it out and it's more frustrating, especially if you don't bank. I mean, we've talked about this before, right? How frustrating it can be if, let's say you're cashing out 5 tickets and it's all crap.
Yeah.
I'd rather cash out 50 tickets at once, have still the same drop rate.
Yeah.
But then I feel not so bad because at the end of it, I've got something to show for it.
For sure.
Yeah, so even though and just a reminder, even though there isn't a power credit glitch, the last lap ticket glitch still is working. We tested it, confirmed it still is. If you can't get it, maybe just practice a little bit on timing. There's a link in the description for our video talking about how to do that.
Yeah.
So I think we should be getting a little bit close-ish. Or maybe not. That's, I actually find it a little bit frustrating. I can't imagine what it's like if you're just doing it one at a time with no last ticket glitch and not banking them.
Yeah.
It's gotta feel really frustrating.
Because there's just so many nestled layers of kind of randomness.
Yeah.
There's the wheel while you're playing, and if you don't get it, any kind of medium or higher level player doesn't really need the other rewards the same way.
Right.
And if you happen to get lucky on the wheel, you get one extra thing here. And then when you're actually cashing out of here, despite the last laugh tickets feeling like they should be a lot more premium for what they are during the actual earning of them, once you actually cash them out, a lot of them are just kind of okay.
Right, so there's no incremental progress. So it's not like you by cashing out 100 and not getting the mace, you're this much closer to getting the mace, right?
Yeah.
Where it is when you're accumulating some sort of currency.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there's a chance of just getting a ha 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 and just losing.
Oh, like that. Perfect.
Yeah, just losing all that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because each time you get one of those, if that is, you know, something that you have really had to play a lot to get, right? Because it's a few minutes for each ticket.
Yeah.
At a minimum. And then just losing it, and you're like, okay, well that's just crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, that was 2 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So we've got at least a few more minutes even at 4 times speed.
Yeah, which gives you a little bit of an indication of just how long it takes to cash these out. Like, this was an hour of footage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about Suicide Squad again?
Ooh, I guess we have the time. Yeah, I recently saw the I Hate Everything review, and he was very, very critical, but you're in his favorite moment, though he did frame it as the only moment that he thought wasn't bad in the movie was the same, right?
What's funny is, because I come into Suicide Squad with a bit of a history. I actually had the comic when it first came out, I think in, I want to say 1990, I'm not sure, with the black cover, Luca Strander and, not John Ostrander and Luke McDonnell. And it was a lot of fun because at the time I really liked the superhero comics where they had superheroes that didn't have a lot of superpowers.
Yeah.
So that was Deadshot. He looked cool. I mean, you could sort of say that Captain Boomerang was like that too, but he looked goofy. Like in the comic book, he actually had this.
Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, well, because he's in the movie too, right?
Yeah,
it's funny what they did because there's in the comic book there's a tiger guy. Amanda Waller was there, of course. But yeah, it was just.
What about Slipknot?
I don't think Slipknot was in there. I'm pretty sure it's not.
No, I think okay. Well, I think he wasn't. I think that's why they included him. The other reason for putting Slipknot into the movie.
I didn't follow Suicide Squad until it ended, but in the first issue there wasn't.
Okay.
You know what was funny? Actually, this is an interesting bit of history that you might not know if you weren't collecting at the time. It came out at the same time that they rebooted Justice League. So Justice League, the Giffen DeMatteis with doing the story, and Kevin Maguire, who this was his first sort of professional job, I think. And he was like a totally new style of art, where it's really clean and realistic. And he did these great facial expressions, especially people like that were yelling or laughing.
Yeah.
And it came out at the same time. And Justice League ended up taking off huge, and Suicide Squad ended up in the clearance bins until recently.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting concept. I would have followed them a little bit longer if they'd maybe done a few more interesting things, but I can't remember why I stopped collecting it.
And you kind of understand why they did some of what they did in Suicide Squad. Like, there's a lot of characters they did like kind of longer intros for, and then there's a couple that they don't really. And this is gonna be a minor spoiler for maybe the next 20 seconds, but they just kill Slipknot off right at the beginning, so they don't do anything. And his only introduction as a character is that he can climb anything. I'm not joking. I just watched the I Hate Everything review of it, and that was his character introduction.
But you knew, I mean, if you want to even have some semblance of reality, these are hardened criminals. They're going to be looking for any way out. So if there's even a doubt in their mind,
oh, I know
these people. So somebody's got to die. You know that. See, all right. So this is why I love the stories where when somebody's killed, it's not so obvious that it's somebody like the red shirts, right, in Star Trek, that it's somebody who's going to be unimportant and there's going to be no emotional weight. If there is any, it's going to be cheap and
that's what they did
earned.
for Slipknot. He was the guy who can climb anything, and then that's all his introduction. They have Killer Croc, and they're like, yeah, it's a man with lizard skin, and they go over it for like 15 minutes, and then it's like, well, not 15, but then it's like Slipknot, yeah, guy can climb anything. It's literally as he's getting out of the car on his way to join the Suicide Squad, and that's it. That's all his character.
Yeah. Pretty sad, actually. All right, we're getting close to the end.
We are.
11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Ooh,
and it's a
perfect.
fourth World Gear set piece.
I think that's actually quite fitting and appropriate.
All
right, so let's go take a look at the collection and see what we got.
There we go.
And if we organize it by just the number that we got actually would be interesting. So what's funny is the chest plate was actually the most common of all of them.
Just because I think any other gear star number, there's just so many more possibilities.
Right. So, all right, so if we take a quick count of all of this and we maybe reorganize it by high star. So you can see that we got all 3 of the legendary gears out of 1,000. There was 32 chest plates, 12 helmets, and 5 mace. So roughly we're talking like out of 1,000 tickets. Now, if we're talking about all the gear, that's a different story. But so 5% chance seems actually pretty low when you're talking about all 3 gears combined. Yeah. We got some 3-star gears, and there were actually 15 different ones, a total of 17 copies, 17 3-star gears. That's maybe like just under 2% out of 1,000.
Yep.
And it's what? All right, so this is interesting. 1-star gear was less common than 2-star gear. So 2-star gear, we got 186 of them, 79 of the 1-star gear. So that breaks down to 56% of all our gears were 2-star. 24% of all our gears were 1-star, 5% were 3-star, and 15% were legendary.
Yeah, and that was... So 15% of the gear we got was legendary, and about 5% of all the last laugh tickets we opened were legendary gear.
So I think I'm kind of convinced. The mace, whatever your own personal drop rate is, I think the mace is probably the rarest.
Yeah.
And maybe to me it was the most interesting and useful as an offensive gear.
We probably could calculate our p-value to see if it's scientifically meaningful data set that we're working with, but I'm not exactly sure how to go about doing that.
No.
Anyways, that was us opening.
Yeah,
that was the last.
So if you're still waiting on your mace, rest assured it's in there. But the drop rate is pretty low. Chances are, if you're just waiting on a ticket, there's a 1 in 20 chance you'll get one of them, and even lower chance, 0.5%.
Yeah.
That you're gonna get the mace actually.
So, anyways, that was the video. Thanks for watching.